Okay.
Okay. Hello. Am I live? Yes, good. Welcome to the August meeting of the Historic Conservation Commission. I'm Gary Lader, Chair of the HCC. I would like to introduce to the commission. To my left is Jeffrey Long, our Historic Officer and Registered Architect. To my far left is Craig Evans, resident of the district. To my right is Todd Chambers, architect with business interests in the district, and Mike Simonson, to my far right, Chief Building Inspector. Ordinance information is the purpose and intent of the City of Bethlehem to promote, enhance, and preserve historic resources and traditional community character for the education, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the public through the preservation, protection, and regulation of buildings and areas of historic interest or importance within the city, which have been determined to be of local, state, or national significance. The way the meeting will unfold is the applicants will be taken in order. After identifying the project address and the presenters, our historic officer will provide a background on the building and any recommendations. At that time, the applicant will present their project and plan. The board will then address the project, allow public comment, and ultimately create a motion to approve as presented, approve with modifications. Table the project with clear recommendations or deny the project with reasons for the denial and changes or improvements which would result in a positive recommendation. For public comment, there is a 3-minute time limit and comments must be specific to attributes of the building only. Speakers are to announce themselves with their name and address before speaking. The HCC is a recommending board and the results of our meeting will be presented to the City Council and their vote will be binding. Please do not forget to secure your permit from the permit office on the first floor of City Hall before you begin your project. Above all, I remind everyone to conduct themselves in a civil manner and always use a civil tone. The commission is here to help you with your project. We are a group of volunteers who are dedicated to historic preservation and restoration of older buildings in Bethlehem and beyond. If any commission members have a conflict of interest with any of the applications on tonight's agenda, please come forth at this time. Is there any conflicts? I don't think so. Great. And then I ask everyone to sign in, and we only have one application this evening, so we'll start the meeting. And greetings, Elliot. Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
325 Broadway, the building description, period, style, and defining features. This structure is a 3-story, 2-bay, brick masonry, attached commercial and residential building. Building dates from circa 1900 and is Italianate in style, with 1/1 double-hung windows, a corbelled upper parapet, and a flat roof. It includes cast masonry details around the upper-level windows and near the upper cornice. The entry level of the front or the south facade received various modifications during the late 20th century, including an applied exterior insulation finish system or EIFS, a new storefront windows, and a recessed entrance doors. Sorry, there's two. There's one visible parallel with the street and one perpendicular with aluminum framing. Proposed alterations: the applicant proposes to replace the existing storefront, to install a new awning and new signage, along with upgrades to the entrance for ADA compliance. The guideline citations I use for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 7, and I'll read it. The chemical or physical treatments, if appropriate, will be taken using the gentlest means possible. Treatments that cause damage to historic materials will not be used. This is in reference to the applicant's proposal to remove the EIFS, which has already been done, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I also use Secretary of Interior Standards number 9. Quote, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy the historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old, but will be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, as well as massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. Also, Secretary of Interior Standards number 10 concerning new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. I also referenced the ordinance that Mr. Lader read at the beginning of tonight's meeting, the Historic Conservation Commission guidelines specific to signage, and the Historic Conservation Commission guidelines specific for storefronts. My evaluation, the effects on the district, and any recommendations. During an initial discussion with HCC on June 17, 2024, the applicant proposed to replace the existing storefront, to remove the existing EFA system, and to reveal the original brick facade as well as to install an awning and new signage for a commercial tenant. During the resulting discussion, HCC confirmed that the existing storefront is non-contributing to the Historic Conservation District and can be replaced with an appropriate design solution. Similarly, HCC confirmed the existing EFIS is non-contributing to the district, so the applicant was encouraged to conduct select demolition to determine the condition of the brick facade beneath before returning to HCC with proposed approaches. The applicant also confirmed that most details of the existing lower cornice and the sign band were composed of late 20th century patches and materials, so few original historic features of that element remain. In response, the HCC confirmed that the lower cornice and sign band can be replaced with an appropriate alternative. Following a lengthy discussion with the applicant, the HCC tabled any decision about the appropriateness of the proposals and encouraged the applicant to return with scaled drawings indicating proposed materials, critical dimensions, the indication of the awning's functionality, etc. The current certificate of appropriateness application reflects the applicant's responses to previous HCC comments and concerns. The applicant proposes to replace the existing non-contributing storefront with a new storefront that consists of one large panel at the far right that measures approximately 9 feet 3 inches high by 7 feet 7.5 inches wide, along with a smaller storefront panel installed 90 degrees to the large panel that measures approximately 9 feet 3 inches high by 3 feet wide, with a return storefront panel installed 90 degrees to the smaller panel, so parallel with the larger panel, as a recessed entrance that measures approximately 8 feet 3 inches high by 6 feet 3.5 inches wide overall. That recessed panel also includes a full glazed door that measures 3 feet wide. The proposed storefront assembly is a Conair 451 UT aluminum framing system in a dark bronze anodized finish to match the storefront of the adjacent structure at 327 Broadway that was previously determined by HCC as appropriate. The storefront panels are center set, which is appropriate, and the glazing is clear, not tinted, colored, or reflective. The proposed material for the apron beneath the storefront is a Genrose, I wasn't sure the pronunciation, exterior rated glazed porcelain wall tiles from the Forge series. They are to be laid in vertical soldier course pattern. The factory applied finish is a blue BLU iron and a matte finish. When I cross-reference relevant design guidelines, the proposed aluminum storefront assembly with the tiled apron is appropriate. The proposed 3/4 inch wood white ash on furring, stained, and sealed, that's called out on one of the drawings, as a replacement for the existing lower cornice and sign band above the storefront is, according to the guidelines, not appropriate and warrants discussion. So when you reference the guidelines, it states if there's evidence, even if it's been lost, of a previous cornice and or a sign band, then that should be recreated in some form or fashion. It doesn't have to be replicated. We're not Disney World. We don't want to see something that looks like it's 100 years old and is not. It could be a very simplified version of that. And if you look at the photographs provided by the applicant, they've taken the entire skin off of that lowest level, and you can see the ledger for what was a cornice. And they're using that as the location for the awning, and I'll get to that in just a moment. So first, the guidelines say if there's evidence of a cornice and or sign band, they should strive to reproduce something of that nature. And then the guidelines specifically state that horizontal wood siding on a storefront is not appropriate. Now, they're not putting forth the traditional lap siding per se. They are putting forth a contemporary interpretation of wood siding. I couldn't find in the records of my tenure as a historic officer where you've considered this type of siding as a replacement for a sign band. We have seen it on certain facade materials, specifically some side or rear additions, but not. Couldn't find it on a front facade, and specifically because the guidelines say it's not appropriate. I feel like that this component of their proposal is definitely worth discussing. I didn't come with any ideas. The guidelines show what a typical cornice and a sign band looks like, but I think we've all seen plenty of those. Again, I'm not saying we have to recreate what was there, but perhaps we need to think of some kind of a simplified version of that. So that's my assessment of the storefront. It's kind of 4 parts, so that's the first part. Second part, based on the previous HCC comments, the applicant removed the inappropriate EFA system at the remaining surfaces on the entry-level facade to reveal the existing brick facade beneath. The applicant proposes to, quote, clean off the remaining cement. It is appropriate as long as they respect the Secretary of Interior Standard 7 that I read, that they use the gentlest means possible. I think they're claiming it's cement. It must be some kind of a approached for adhering the EFAs to that system. And it looks like a lot of the EFAs came off without scarring the facade, and these are the remnants of that. So if they could maybe describe how they're going to clean the remnants of that, as long as it fits the Secretary of Interior standards, that should be fine. I do want to call, if you look attention to the photograph, the brick in that portion is different than the brick above, but based on our guidelines, that's not a problem. It comes from perhaps a later period, but it reflects a history of that building. Our guidelines don't say that they are forced to replace it with a brick to match the upper. I just wanted to make that clear in case that comes up as a question. The next component has to do with the awnings. The design guidelines consider awnings with a front valance flap at the storefront appropriate within the district. The applicant proposes a retractable awning in a black canvas fabric with open sides and lettering on the front flap that reads, quote, the pizza joint, end quote, in slender sans serif all uppercase lettering in a red color at 10 inches tall by 88.5 inches wide. 8 inches wide. At the left is the email address, and at the right is the telephone number. Those are 5 inches tall and off-white in color. The overall dimensions of the proposed awning are 52 inches tall by 238 inches wide. That's slightly different from what we saw in the original application, but it's not concerning from my perspective. When fully retracted, the awning extends 12 inches, and when fully protracted, the awning extends 84 inches out over and 110 inches above the public right-of-way. The proposed awning is appropriate based on the relevant design guidelines, such things as the canvas fabric, the open sides, lettering on the front flap, etc. Those are all specifically called out in the design guidelines as appropriate. I did see one discrepancy. The lettering, the tall lettering is 10 inches tall, but the provided detail shows the valance is 7 inches tall. So there must be a discrepancy in either the lettering or the valance height to make both of those happen. The guidelines discourage secondary signage on valances. For example, the website and the telephone number. My suggestion was those could be easily relocated to the storefront, most likely the door, something like that. The guidelines show a logo or the name of a location is acceptable. So the pizza joint would be. It doesn't really favor other information on the awning. Probably connected with my previous comment about the loss of the cornice and signboard, they are proposing a, quote, black aluminum flashing cut into the brick mortar joint, end quote, above the awning. I'd like a little bit more clarification about that. And if we are looking at perhaps indeed some kind of a simplified sign band, then the flashing might not be as prominent as it seems to be in the drawing. It might just be a simple flashing above that cornice. So I'm not saying it's appropriate or inappropriate at this point because I think it's interconnected with the previous discussion. The next components have to do with signage. The proposed logo sign at the far left brick wall surface measures 33 inches tall by 33 inches wide and consists of die-cut steel elements with a powder-coated finish in a black color. The logo consists of a stylized pizza slice at the top with a crossed fork and knife at the bottom. Installation is centered horizontally within the upper half of the wall surface and pin mounted using 1-inch spacers into the existing mortar joints. Based on the relevant design guidelines, the proposed signage is appropriate. Details for a storefront panel adjacent to the recessed entrance. So the door leading in, the recessed door leading into it, has the hours of operation in a die-cut vinyl lettering in an off-white color. It measures approximately 12 inches tall by 21 inches wide. The installation is centered horizontally within the upper half of the storefront panel. The proposed signage is appropriate. Upon confirmation, it's installed on the inside surface of the glazing. And then finally, we have proposed signage at the far right storefront panel. It measures 36 inches tall by 72 inches wide and consists of a die-cut vinyl decal. The installation is centered horizontally within the upper half of the storefront panel. The logo is a stylized pizza slice with a crossed fork and knife in the background. They're red in color, while the words "The Pizza Joint" in slender sans serif all uppercase lettering are in the foreground in an off-white color. At the bottom is the is ESTD for established in small off-white lettering, and at the bottom right is 2019 in small off-white lettering. The applicant should confirm that the vinyl is installed on the inside surface. Also, in my opinion, discussion is warranted. It's a little unclear if these are individually die cut or if it's just one applique. And if so, what's going on? Is there a background color? It appears black, but that just could be the graphic to make sure we see what's going on. Excuse me?
I think the black's the glass.
Sure, that's my assumption, but we haven't had solids like that, and you've typically frowned on that because it blocks the view in and out. So as long as I confirm that it was there just to make sure we see what's going on, it should be fine. So those are my assessments. I did not address the ADA compliance components in the past. If it has to do with life safety or ADA, we really have no say in those components. We can discuss them, so you're free to talk about them to understand the details. I'll gladly capture those in the minutes, and it's good we have Mr. Simonson here. He can walk through anything that might be necessary. Not that I want to put him on the spot, but he might be able to clarify a few things. But I'm just cautioning we're not going to have a resolution that includes anything dealing with the ADA compliance because that really is a different department.
Okay.
So with that, I've finished my assessment.
Great, thank you, Joe.
Just a comment on that last bit. We have had discussions relative to ADA elements when there was a choice, an aesthetic choice between two approaches. For example, hand railings in some cases. So it is not inappropriate for us to comment on the ADA stuff, but not to eliminate or, it has to be among the choices.
Yeah, that I did find one case where we had that, but the handrail was attached to the building. The rule is if these are not attached to the building, then we don't. Again, we can discuss it, but we can't pass a resolution. So that is a difference there. So thanks for making that clarification. Yeah.
So I guess it's the same thing with the drink railing, and like you're not going to say anything about that because it's just not attached to the building. Okay. Well, Elliot, I guess maybe the first question is, all right, so you did all that exploratory work, and can you tell us more about what you think is going to be involved in cleaning off that existing brick?
Yeah. So the cementitious adhesive or whatever that is that's on there is stuck pretty tightly. So we were assuming it would be kind of chiseled off. Obviously, the brick face itself, we would want to protect that as carefully as possible. I don't know if they might try hand chiseling first and see what they can do, but it's not something that you're going to be able to like pry off easily. Something in some sort of chiseling would need to be involved. Fortunately, there's not so much of it, but they didn't even attempt to take any of it off yet, so they don't really know how involved it's going to be.
Okay. I guess I'm wondering if it could be the kind of thing where it's so hard to get off that you're going to be damaging a lot of the brick, and then you're just going to have to say, oh, well, maybe there should be a plan B. I don't know.
Yeah, our thought was plan B, with your approval, would be painting the brick. And the thought was if some of the bricks are very damaged, we could piece in new brick. And if it doesn't exactly match in color, it would all be painted in a similar kind of gray tone.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I'm sure there's all kinds of techniques for, getting rid of the schmutz that's on the brick now. But yeah, I think as Jeff expressed, the trick is doing it in a way that causes the least amount of damage. And,
Right.
I wouldn't even know where to begin to tell you how to approach that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think, they'll hand chisel at first, and if that doesn't work, probably some sort of like pneumatic thing. But I could certainly pass that on and make sure they're careful about it.
How much texture is there in the brick? Is it relatively smooth?
It's pretty smooth, and at first I thought it was brick coat because of the color, but it's not. It's actually the brick. But yeah, it's. I'm kind of stumped at the color of that versus the color of the brick band, and then the red brick above. It seems like the kind of darker gray brick up above was never meant to be exposed because they didn't take as much care in scoring the mortar joints and such. But the brick below does actually have tooled mortar joints, so it was probably exposed at some point.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to, I don't know. I'm fine with trying to clean it off, but I do think you're probably going to be left with something that you can't remove, right? That's either in the texture of the brick itself or the mortar joints. So, I think painting is probably a good solution. At least you get the visual texture of the brick, right?
Right.
Yeah, be interesting to see how it works out. Maybe it's not that bad. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they used something so strong for gluing on the foam.
It goes either way. When you need it to hold, it turns out the glue's not strong enough.
Yeah.
When you want to get rid of it, it's like cement. So
Yeah.
never works in our favor.
Yeah.
That's probably like some.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking about Jeff's comment too with what used to apparently was the existing sign ban. And, I hadn't really given that much thought, but any thoughts on your end with?
Yeah. So as you can see, like in that one kind of close-up view of it, the section of wood is actually out proud of the brick above, and it's in the same plane as the brick below, and then that kind of pier on the right-hand side. I'm looking at page 3 here. So the thought was to get the awning to span the whole width of the building and not die at that pier. We would be blocking out behind it, and then that flashing material we discussed would cover that blocking and provide the mounting for the awning itself. So I guess it was our thought that like that awning is a permanent part of the design, and that would kind of give you that banding across. Even when it's retracted, it's going to stick out a good 12 inches or so, which will then cover the wood below and In terms of the wood, the selection there was just to stay simple. We actually always had designed wood for the ceiling of that vestibule, so we're just taking that same material and wrapping it up. But yeah, if there's something different you'd like to see in terms of breaking that up and so it's not so horizontal, we'd be open to ideas there.
So on the second to last page, that's the material you'd use. It's this benchmark ash cladding.
Yeah, that's the thought. It's either that or something very similar in color and tone. They're pricing it now, so
Okay.
we'll see. This is a sample of it here. Want to pass it? It's shiplap, yeah, it's like a thermally modified wood, so it's not going to rot or decay.
I gotta tell you, the sample's a lot nicer than what I'm seeing on paper. So thanks for bringing that. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful product. So it's actually real wood, or
It's real wood, and then they bake it at a really high temperature to kill all the organic material.
Okay.
So it becomes like harder and resistant
so
to
it's no
rot and
longer real
insect
wood.
damage.
No, it is. Personally, I like the thought of having the awning kind of take the place of the storefront cornice and continue that line. I think that works very nicely and elegantly, and the metal flashing you've got there will probably hide some of that deteriorated
Yeah,
bits at the top of that darker brick sign band.
yeah. It looks like there was some water damage on that stone itself. I don't know if there was metal in there that rusted, but you
Yeah,
can
it
see
looks
it's
like
kind of,
flashing.
yeah. So the thought was to cover that so no further water gets in at that point.
Thought exactly.
Just out of curiosity, the metal pieces of the awning, do you have a color for that? Can they do anything? other
It'll
than
be
white?
it'll be black. Yeah, yeah. And like the photo, it's hard to get information out of these awning people. The photos on page 7 are the exact product that we're looking at, the one that says Sister Jane on the front.
Uh-huh.
So you can kind of, in that other view of it, you can see that it's
Oh,
black
yeah.
on the underside.
And you had detailed the valence at 12 inches, I think, on your drawing. 7 inches.
Yeah, I didn't catch.
That down, it's on the last page.
Yep, I didn't catch. That was
Stock.
the stock thing. Yeah, but they can make it any size that you want. And yeah, the drawing, one of the elevation drawings is what's proposed. Yeah, I didn't
So-
catch that 7-inch.
so the valance should be 10 inches.
I think it's 12, and then the lettering is
Oh, I
10.
see. Okay, I got it.
1 foot, 5/8.
Right.
Mike's gonna measure that when I get out into the section.
Yeah,
You owe me 5/8.
that takes into account the curvature of the. Yeah. I don't-
So any other comments on this
I
or questions?
don't have any questions, but I'd like to compliment Elliot on his thorough drawings. Seems to understand what you want to do here.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree.
Did we get any clarification on the logo and signage on the larger window? Is that
Yeah, that'll be clear. Just the white,
clear with the element, the lettering and
right?
so
The
on?
the white and the red from that graphic will be solid vinyl, and the black from that image will just be the glass.
That logo's all one piece.
Um,
That's separate.
they would. That's a good question. I'm not sure how they would do it. If it would be like on one backing, but 2 different colors. I'm not sure.
What's the other question I have is the URL and phone number on the awning valance. How do you feel about that? I think, Jeff, that was something you mentioned, right?
Yeah, the guidelines, they don't talk about those things. They just show either a logo for a name. Traditionally, when I look back, oftentimes you'll have contact details together with the hours of operation. I mentioned that as a possibility. Occasionally, you see them in the storefront, they around against that, so they kind of get messy. And often too big.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there aren't awnings with that, but the guidelines really don't encourage anything beyond the name.
I mean, my sense is because the font is very similar, and there's a clear hierarchy between the name and the URL and the phone number, and it's all very clean and neat and nicely organized. I'm okay with it, but I'd certainly like to hear everybody else's thoughts.
Unfortunately, I really can't do one without the other.
Yeah, no, you need that.
You need one,
symmetry.
you need either both or none.
And it kind of makes sense. I mean, I'm assuming this is like a takeout place, right?
Yeah, there's no dine in, so yeah. I think they want people to be able to see it, from the street.
And we're okay with the organization. I think you still have to meet the zoning, right, for the signage criteria.
Yes.
Yeah, and we had a preliminary meeting with engineering, and they understood the approach to try to bring this up to ADA. I don't know if you're familiar with the existing building, but there's like a 3-inch step, and then there's
Yeah.
also a ramp inside that's not compliant, which eats up, a good 5 feet into the. So we're looking at raising that, removing the ramp, raising the height of that door, which is why it's all new storefront. So yeah, that was the thought.
But you'd still go to for zoning or for a signage permit, right, for the signage that meets
Yep.
all the area criteria, right?
Signage and with meeting
Yeah,
with
he would need-
engineering.
Yeah, zoning, you need a couple of permits. Obviously engineering like you spoke about, but
For the side.
yeah, for the sidewalk building, for the ramp, you would need us for the ramp, and then zoning also for the canopy as well.
Right. Yeah, and we did go out since that meeting and measure where the pole, the street lamp, the parking meter, and at the worst case, it's 4'8" to our proposed curb. And the thought too was with this drink rail, Seven Sirens was looking to revamp their front as well, so we're lumping it all in the same project, but that drink rail would be kind of continuous along the whole edge of this curb, which we think will improve safety as well.
No, I imagine.
Now, is there going to be a separate cut into that drink rail for the magistrate's office, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there'll be 3 breaks in it where it says step on the site plan.
Yeah, magistrates in between the Seven Sirens and the.
Yeah, it's that door that's kind of cut off that you can see there, the further leftmost step on the drawing. That's the door to the magistrate's office,
So the
as well as the apartments above.
Yep. So with the handicap access, and we'll get into this more with the plans, but I just want to tackle it now. Will that just be in front of the pizza joint and then lead you to magistrate, then to Seven Sirens, or?
Yeah, so the ramp actually would start to the west, so in front of Seven Sirens.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yep. And so that would be more or less level all the way across.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And slow
Yep.
it down after
Yeah. Gotcha.
the pizza joint door.
Yeah.
So Elliot, on the site plan, is the walkway that's hatched, does that represent new?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So we're replacing the one section of lower sidewalk, I guess you could call it, that touches the curb. Because I believe that's the only piece of sidewalk that's not new at this point. But yeah, then the 4 upper pieces are all new and they'll be raised. And we have
Right.
a detail in the permit set that shows that.
Well, if there's no more questions or comments, I'm ready to make a motion on this. Yeah.
Do we, my only question slash comment is, we don't really understand the composition of that drink rail. And I'm assuming it's metal of some sort, right? Did we review that?
No,
No.
Okay.
believe it or not.
The aesthetics,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm fine with
because it's
that.
Not attached to the building. It's really in the public way.
Okay.
You think we should, I agree.
I'm sure Elliot.
It'll be great.
Very
It'll be
elegant
great.
solution. Yeah.
Now we're going for like very minimal, so it's not
Mhm.
distracting, but enough that you don't fall off the step.
So I'd like to make a motion for the project at 325 Broadway for the pizza joint, that we approve the project as presented with the following clarifications. The existing brick will, it's the intention to restore the existing brick and carefully remove whatever adhesives and stuff that are on it. But, you know, if it proves that too much of it's getting damaged in the process, or you know, I guess the idea is not to damage it, but we're in agreement that painting it is an acceptable solution.
I'll just asterisk that. I think we do need to have all the adhesive removed, even if we're painting it. But the intent of painting it is to provide a uniform surface if you can't get the adhesive out of the texture of the brick.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to see like paint, like globs of adhesive behind the paint.
So let me say this.
Right.
Yeah, please add in as you feel fit, but let me just get through my motion first. Okay, no problem. We're in approving the horizontal wood siding, even though typically the material is not appropriate. In this case, we're approving it as a solution because it works to help the project in terms of details, and the quality of the material is such that we feel comfortable with it. In terms of any vinyl lettering, it's to be installed inside, interior to the glass, that is. The valance of the awning is actually 1 foot or so, and to allow for the 10-inch lettering. And we approve, we're in agreement with the lettering and the name and the phone number and so on as presented. So I think that covers everything in my motion. So if I missed anything, let me know.
Just want to add all ADA modifications to be reviewed by the city building office.
Okay, great. So all ADA modifications reviewed by city office. Do I have any second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments or additions to the motion? Yeah.
The three-dimensional logo.
Oh, right, yes. I don't believe there were any comments on that. Yes, that should be part of the motion. Thank you. As well as the,
Yeah.
yeah, as well as the storefront system itself and and other details and materials that were presented. Okay, so let's put that to a vote. Craig Evans.
Aye.
Desiree Strasser. Aye. I vote aye. Todd.
Aye.
Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
project.
Yeah, looking
Thanks.
forward to seeing that built.
We're looking forward to getting it.
Okay. Right. So motion to approve the minutes. Okay. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay. And I can only vote on the first set, but any seconds on that?
I'll second.
Which one?
Thanks. So,
First
so we,
July meeting.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Both July meetings, yeah.
right. Okay, you good, Jeff? Okay, and, in terms of business, so I don't know if everyone's aware that, that Roger Hudak has retired from our commission. That went around yet. But, I just want to state publicly that he was a great person to have with us with all of his vast knowledge and experience living on the south side. So it'll be hard to find someone to match him.
Thank you all.
Just also wanted to express that, we appreciated him serving with us these number of years.
Excellent commission member.
We're out of here.
Okay,
All right, motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn, yeah.